it's not about show. It's not about splashing cash. It's just about building something worthwhile that will suit our family.
Well, let's jump into the design, because obviously non-conventionally sized and arranged site that you tried to massage a floor plan on and it hadn't worked. Starting with a building designer who starts from first principles of, okay, let's figure out what your goals are, how you want to live, how you want this home to actually support your lifestyle. What are we going to do? And also is somebody who's focused on passive solar design and making sure that the home is energy efficient as well. So you put together this incredible brief. You've filled out Greencoast Design's form as well. What was the most important thing for you to get right in the design? And did this change at all as you were sort of navigating the process? And did you feel, like you said, that you knew how you wanted rooms to perform, but you couldn't obviously picture a house, and you've ended up with a design form that is very different. How did that sort of process work in the I suppose that kind of those early design concepts, and you kind of entertaining what Aaron potentially was presenting back to you and working through those initial sort of weeks and months of your design process?
So I think the most important thing for us was, if we're going down this road of custom build, I don't want a boring box. I want a house that works for us. It has a fabulous feel. It had to be welcoming. It had to make everybody who walked into it feel so good and so welcome, because that's our life. We have people coming in and out of our life all the time. So yeah, I guess I really wanted it to be interesting, because if we're going to the effort of doing it, we might as well do it well. I wanted it to be welcoming. I wanted it to have a really bright, airy feel. Lots of light was really important to Paul. And a sense of togetherness as a family without being in each other's pockets was also really important. With the initial designs we were looking at, and a lot of the display homes that you'll walk through, most of them are 2-story because the blocks are teeny. And upstairs there's often another living area and all the bedrooms, or just the kids' bedrooms and another living area, and parents will be somewhere else. We thought about, we don't really want that. We don't want another living area way, way away from us. We want to be able to be connected even when we are in our own spaces. We want a good visual connection with each other. Good auditory, what do you call that? I want to be able to yell at the kids.
Not sound like a screaming banshee to the neighbors. Yeah,
exactly. We're loud. So yeah, I wanted them to actually be able to hear me, and I didn't want to have an intercom for my own house. So they were the important things, and a real good connection to the outside as well, because after backing onto bushland for almost 19 years, I need green, I need trees. We moved away from that, and I'd start to get a little bit antsy and a bit anxious, or a bit on edge, and I'd be a bit snappy with everybody. It's like, do you need some trees, honey? Yes, I need trees. Let's go. I need trees now. And it just so calming, it resets me. I'm all good to go. Sorry, everybody. Mum wasn't doing so well. Mum's better now. We can move on. So I thought, well, we definitely need a good outdoor connection. Lots of trees, lots of gardens. I love my plants, love my indoor, love growing things. So it had to have that too. So yeah, it was fun looking at the brief last night. And in the initial design, talking to volume builders, well, what if, it's a weird, do we just incorporate the angle of the block here? And they went, oh, look, angles are, anything other than 90 degrees is going to be expensive. So you're better off just not. Well, I guess you got to just embrace what you got. If you've got a weird shaped block with weird angles, and that's what you got to use, that's what you got to use. So we put it in the brief. We like weird angles. We like surprising views of outside. We like, you know, a courtyard or mixed materials. We like a welcome. We want something that's really welcoming, that opens up and that doesn't have a long, stupid hallway that's dark and narrow. And then all of a sudden, ta-da, now you're in the home. You don't, something you don't have to walk through the entire home to finally get to the home. Yeah. So first design meeting, like he'd had the brief, and then he said, okay, normally we're all like, so excited. Oh, what's he going to say? He said, normally I've got a couple of different designs, and he's so fun to watch. Design professionals are so fun to watch, out comes the yellow trace. And so here's your block, because he's got the footprint of it there. So I was initially thinking, draw a little, we could have C shape right at the back. And, that would let in the light here, access here, have all your have all your outdoor connections at the front, and, be flooded with northern light. But yeah, you're in Logan and City Council, and I'm not so sure about building over sewer in Logan City Council. Brisbane, not a problem. And then he proceeds to draw how he would do the slab. This is how I'd make the slab for you and look like this, and it's a bridgy thing, and it's no big deal, and they're all happy with that. But Logan, not so sure. We'd have to test that. So let's put that one to the side. That's what I was thinking. And then I thought maybe we could go a H-shaped house and have, 2 wings and connecting here. And then you could have light coming in here, and you could have outdoor living at the back. But again, we run into the problem of that sewer line going in through the back. So he puts that aside. So this is what I came out with. And this fully formed concept, completely fully formed. It's an O shape, but with really funky, weird angles. I had no words. I was like, oh, Paul just went, Janet's going to love that. That's amazing. So it's got a central courtyard it's wider on one end than the other. It splays out with these angles of 77 degrees and 103. And he repeats the 77 and 103 throughout the house, but not in weird places, in really, really clever places that it doesn't matter, like the garage. Well, I say it doesn't matter in the garage because not my garage. In the garage and in the bathroom and in the laundry, in, those service areas and in the powder room area. That's where those funky angles are. But the living areas and the bedrooms, they're all normal. Well, I mean,
just orthogonal, yeah, just rectangles, yeah, and squares, yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, there is a weird funky angle in on the other side of the garage where the multipurpose room is, but the rest of it has 90-degree angles, all easy to use. So it's just one of the 4 corners is weird, but you wouldn't use it anyway. So yeah. So I'd like
and
to,
it was just, it must have been such a departure from what you had previously experienced, like how, and like, again, just to take you back to the way that you were describing what you wanted, how had you gone and looked at those floor plans and those displays with that level of understanding about your life? Like, what had been the process of you eliciting that from yourself to then think about how you're going to communicate that with Aaron, for then Aaron to come up with, okay, I can see that this is what they need as a family. And then I'm going to look at how we apply that to the site to streamline approvals, to get the outcome for orientation and for this to work for their budget. So obviously lots of jigsaw pieces all coming together, but it's initiated by you figuring out what you want. So what, in terms of you thinking about your life in that way, what was it, just largely the home method questionnaire tools in the brief builder? Like, how did you actually kind of draw that out of yourself to really be intentional and think about that? And, I love even you saying mum's getting cranky because she needs a tree. Like it's that thing, knowing that you wanted to be able to, the kids to be able to hear you when you're needing them, wanting those diagonal surprising views through.
Yeah.
That's a lot of, like, most people don't get that level of kind of thinking about their home. So how did you go about making sure that you thought about it at that level?
Yeah, so I think the thing was that we knew what we wanted even as we were walking through the display homes, and I could look at a plan and go, yeah, that could work, or no, because you remember, we're not just looking at display homes. Prior to that, we're looking at buying a house. So I had already spent a lot of time on will this sort of thing work for us? Will this not? And Paul and I talked about this the other night. We decided that we could know, we had a feeling about what would work and what wouldn't, but we couldn't necessarily verbalize it and why. Doing the home method course, listening to all the podcasts sharpened that so well, so that I could tell you in an instant what works and what doesn't for our family, for the site, for that kind of, all of that kind of thing. I could just knowing, oh, this works because actually, wow, we've got all this northern light coming into the back of the house, but it's coming through a courtyard, and then the bedrooms all get northern light as well. That's why I could pull up any other design and go, it doesn't work because of this, the orientation's wrong, this room is buried, there's too much space in the bedrooms, this is oversized, this is undersized, there's, I don't know. I guess I spent a lot of time on these things. So I'm just pulling up my brief. Sorry, it's taking a little while to load. Because I think the funny things, the best part is this page about this home. There was one page that says, number one, can't be a boring box. Design notes. Yeah, this one. Because I looked through this last night and Paul and I were so blown away because everything, tick, 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 budget constraints, no. Yeah, we like interesting design that surprises or delights, maybe has different angles or a courtyard or glimpses of garden through large windows or in unexpected places. It must be at the same time extremely practical, not ostentatious and not expensive. That was a really important thing for me. I don't like walking into a house and going, whoa, these people have got lots of money. I did not want people to do that for us. I want them to walk into and go, wow, what a lovely home. It's not about show. It's not about splashing cash. It's just about building something worthwhile that will suit our family. And so that was really important, that it's not ostentatious, that it's not showy, that it's not using the best of the bling, that was super duper important to us. And I never wanted to be prescriptive. Having tried on the designer hat and going, no, I'll just stick to being an English teacher, thanks. I never wanted to be prescriptive and tell the designer what to do. So that was one of the more exciting things about the process, because we had these design notes of, it has to have good flow from space to another. It has to be sensitive to the climate. I have written notes in here about upstairs, downstairs, but I'm not sold on double story, single story. We're open to be guided. So, give us some ideas, show us what you can do. And that, I think, is that really sweet spot of taking the best of the designer and taking the best of the family, and where that meets, oh man, it's super exciting. Yeah. I mean, you do it all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The whole process, the whole point of having a professional designer or architect involved is so that they actually exceed your expectations on what you thought was even possible. And they think about the things that you just can't even possibly think about because you haven't had lived experience of it, or you didn't even know it was possible for the site, or that buildings could be built in that way, So, I think we have an expectation that every 4-bedroom house is kind of going to look the same. And yet, your house is a very strong demonstration of this is so driven by the site and what the site needed, and at the same time is going to pragmatically work. And we'll put a floor plan in the show notes so that people can see. But this is the thing that's always tricky once you do start getting angled blocks. And when it doesn't go well is when those angles drive poor performance in the functionality of the spaces, because somebody's been too much of a slave to what the site shape needed, or what they've been trying to follow the site's kind of boundaries too closely. Whereas I think the design does a really good job of locating the spaces that can accommodate those quirks in them and it not diminish the functionality, because storage can be built into those spaces, or it works in terms of things that it can be used for. And then the spaces that you're using on a daily basis, or you're having to fit out joinery into and trying to keep the cost down of that, and all those kinds of things, you're doing that in a rational way. So so I think it's really, really exciting in terms of, and I total credit to you, because it can be it to I think that what I see time and time again for Home Method members is when you've done this work on figuring out what you want, getting really clear on that, and then you also educate yourself so you know how to ask the right questions and have those conversations, even though sometimes they feel awkward because there's a lot more questions than people traditionally ask. You build a sense of trust in your ability to make good decisions. And so, and then that gets obviously validated when somebody's feeding back to you, like, okay, yep, this is how we can work. And you're hearing, oh, this is, they're saying to me the things that I know about how this process is supposed to go. So that then supports you going, okay, I'm right to keep trusting in my decisions. I've made a good choice here. So that then helps enhance the trust that you have between you and the professionals that you're working with, which then means you can lean in to relinquishing a bit of the control, or a lot of the control, in what you're then going to get on the page in terms of what they produce. And it becomes this beautiful collegiate collaboration where you're bringing what you need to, because it's your project and you're driving the vision. And, you've got this fantastic, future home that you're dreaming of. They can bring their expertise and realize it in what it looks like in built form. There's this lovely magic that can happen. When you were talking to me about those original words in your brief 2 years ago, I was getting goosebumps about how that's played out, in this home.
Yeah.
And it's because you did the work up front, and then you stayed the course, you stayed the course, you built that trust in your ability to make decisions, you educated yourself, and that then enabled you to build trust in the process so that you could have this really collaborative relationship. So I think it's totally exciting to see how it's all playing out for you. So can we talk a bit about the budget? Because obviously you had that data spreadsheet that you kind of figured out, okay, we can afford more. How has the budget checks played through? Because I know Aaron, of course, as a designer, he's somebody that does collect a lot of data about finished projects. So he is one of those designers who can demonstrate, okay, we've finished a project like this just recently. We've adjusted this for CPI or construction cost increases. We know that the square meter rate of a project like yours is going to be roughly this. We can work with a level of confidence on the design to this point. I would hazard a guess to say he was having conversations about your project with builders, even though they weren't on your project, just to sanity check the decisions he was making, because he's got that network that he's working with.
Yeah.
So when you finally did get the builder to sort of look at it after that initial O-shaped concept, how did then that sort of start rolling out in terms of that budget check along the way and leading up, sort of through the design and making some of those decisions that were potentially going to impact how much this whole thing cost?
Yeah. So initially Paul was I quite like the way that Aaron works in this space. He is let's see, how would you describe it? Kind of like a kindly father. Someone who knows slightly better but doesn't want to crush you.
Is any good designer sort of this parental role, isn't it?
Let me educate you in such a way that this is not going to crush you. So, in our brief, we've put some pictures. He said, give me some inspo pictures of things that just, really float your boat, things that just make you go, wow. Pretty much all of them had clerestory windows or skylights and high soaring cathedral ceilings. And he went, this is beautiful. I see where you're going with that. It's not in your project spend. So let's just take that back a bit. So that was very much, that was Paul. He was really keen to have those, clerestory windows and look out to the sky, or look out to the sky in the kitchen or in the shower and in the living areas. But, we got none of those. But he said, what I loved is that he went, I know where you're going with this. So let's push into that. Let's get that feeling, even if we can't have that reality. I loved that he was very upfront all the way. And also, having been educated by you, we knew that a design professional is not a costing professional. And they come in later down the track, or, as you go. Excuse me. But But yeah, we did really appreciate that he said, I'm going to keep checking with this, but from what I know, this is what we're aiming for. Costs are moving, but they're slowing down. So let's just keep on keeping on and let's see how we go. So yeah, as we went, we ended up getting a reasonable concept that we're all happy with, shifting things in. I wanted an extra bathroom for the 5th bedroom for, you know, future-proofing adult children, aging parents, homestay students or whatever. I was talked out of it. You can't afford that. It's too small. But what if we do it this way? And this is the thing that Paul appreciated a lot about Aaron, and the way he designed. He'd go, I see what you mean. Yeah, I know. I tried that too. But it didn't matter which way I massaged it and tried it and sketched and sketched and sketched, I could never quite get it to fit or work. And Paul's like, good enough for me. I was always are you sure we can't just, you know,
But that's the
Aaron
thing,
and
isn't
I,
it? That the designer's making so many decisions when they're drawing those lines on a page. So you want to work with a designer who's letting you in on their process and who's explaining
yes,
to you. They're not just handing this design over and going, okay, this is it. And you like it or you lump it. What do you want to squash, change, you know, amend or mash together from another option? It is that collaborative thing of the design professional demonstrating to you that they're thinking, you know, that they're thinking ahead of you, or that they're anticipating what you might be asking for and they've given it a shot, and even can potentially sort of sketch in front of you, look, this is the compromise. Because I think too, it's really
yes,
hard as a
that.
homeowner. You can't know until you see it drawn. You'll be asking for all these things and you'll think one thing's a priority, but then until you see what you're having to compromise to get that thing, all of a sudden you realize, oh, actually, no, it's not that important to us. We'd rather that this works like this. And unfortunately, as a homeowner, you can't necessarily see that until it's drawn in front of you or explained to you in a way that has meaning and makes sense to you. So it is really important that you have that open level of communication with the designer, that you can really drive that kind of relationship together. So I can imagine that would have been, and I mean, you and Paul also working differently in the way that you approach things for your designer to be able to juggle that as well in the process of creating an outcome for you is super important too.
Yeah, Paul was a very easy client.
No, it's just he probably wanted it built 12 months ago.
Bless him. He's learned patience, my poor husband. But then, you know, we've been married 23 years, so he learned it a while ago.
Meanwhile, you're going, no, I need to make sure that this is right. I'm not going through what I went through last time. It's going to take a little bit longer as a result. I'm going to make sure that we do this and know what we need right from the outset, and that it's going to suit us, not just in the next 3 years, but it's going to suit us in 10, 15
That's right.
years on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I don't think Aaron minded, because he's a bit of a divergent thinker too. He knows that there's more than one way to solve a problem. And he knew that I knew that. And, you know, but some of the most exciting times were we go, well, what about, and then out comes the ruler and he goes, okay, well, what if I shift that wall, you know, maybe even 20 mil, and then we do this and try that. And, or otherwise we could flip that. But, you know, this is your compromise. This is exactly what you're saying. You know, this is your trade-off. I can push this one out, but we can't go any further than that because of your easement. Or we can ask for a relaxation. And how about we shift the whole house forward as close to that front boundary as we can and as close to that side boundary as we can. Do you want to go further? I'm like, no, I actually want to have somewhere to hang my clothes. Move it back over. You know, just lines on a page, man. They're so good. So
change is cheap.
Absolutely. So yeah, we ended up with the concept we liked. He took it to, he was working on another job with Dwain Hezzelic. Looked at it, went, mate, I want to build that. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me how much it costs, but you know, I want to build it. Right. Oh my gosh, that's amazing, man. And poor Aaron, he's like, no, but how much does it cost? How much would it cost to build it? He's flipping through the plans, because we had a fairly detailed concept by this stage, because we had to go to certification early so that we could avoid the NCC potential changes, and also so that he could, what was the other reason? Get it costed, and I can't remember. Anyway,
so that was October. When were you trying to get that deadline then? So
yeah, so that was September 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and not only just pushing out, you know, originally he said April, and then Aaron's April turned into May, which turned into June. So we didn't actually have our first design meeting with him until June 22. Friends and family. So how's the house? Oh, we're just waiting
Still
on
waiting on this designer.
then finally, we've got a design. Look at our concept. It's amazing. It's got a big hole in the middle.
That's actually pretty quick, that if you like, and I think that's also a demonstration of what happens when you get really clear before you start design and you brief your designer really well, is then you're not faffing about testing what you actually want in a design concept. The design concept is actually then just coming back to you with, is it satisfying these things that you've explicitly asked for, and how do we align the things you've explicitly asked for with what you want to spend on it, so that you can, you can then bring those two together. So September 2022, from you started with Aaron in June 2022, September 2022, he's going to Dwain and he's having a chat to him with this concept, saying, okay, that's great in terms of a time frame. I imagine loads of people who've been sitting in the design concept phase for 14 months would think, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
I guess so. It was. The design phase was actually quite quick. We had a resolved concept, and we had not construction drawings, certification drawings, like November. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, September we went to early certification because we wanted to get things in, and I just like the way he drove the project. He said, right, we need to get this absolutely set in stone, sent through council, certified, so that when time comes to actually get the final write-off on this design, that they go, oh, this has already gone through. We've just got to give the final ticks, the plumbing approvals and this and that and the other, because we've already said that you can build this house. Because we didn't want to be subject to the potential NCC going through.
What do you think played into your ability to make decisions so quickly about stuff? Because I imagine he's showing you things and you're having to give your opinion. Like, how you said before that you now know what works and what doesn't work. Is that what helped you make decisions so quickly? Like, how do you think you were able to be that kind of client that was just able to keep maintaining momentum and make decisions about obviously very big, impactful things as you are moving through?
I guess Aaron sort of put the expectation that, you're going to look, I'm giving this to you, off you go work on this. This is your job. You've got things to do. So again, benevolent dad. I've given you a job to do, off you go. Yeah, there was that. Helpful that, I only worked part-time. So I did have some time to work on it. But yeah, there was definitely weekends in there where it was me and the plan and a ruler and a notebook and lots of windows and doors. I never ever thought I would care and spend that much of my life on windows and doors. I thought at that point I'd spend a lot of time on windows and doors. I had nothing on what was coming. But yeah, just measuring up and learning to read plans and learning to spend a lot of time in the plan, learning to get a feel for what does that space look like in person, measuring out on the site, where, Paul's like, I've pegged it out roughly of where it is. And okay, so stand here. What do you reckon? That's where your window's going to be. And it is very good.
I love this because these are all things that I teach you to do.
Yeah, we have very good students, Amelia.
Very good students.
I'm an obedient person. You tell me what to do and I'll do it. Yeah, so that was all of that. Lots of time was spent in there. And it was usually about, I think between design meetings was about a month, usually, something like that. So that month was, hard at it. And Paul was really good because he'd go, come on, we got to sit down tonight. We got to do this. We got to work on this. So I think just having spent so much time knowing what we wanted, spending a lot of time in the plan, it wasn't hard to spend time in, because it was a really cool project. And we knew the more time we put into it, the sooner we truly will get into this house.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been out of our house 12 months by this stage, and are looking at and at that point we're like, yeah, we probably have to move again.
It sounds to me though like you were, when you're talking about the things that you were doing, you were bringing forward a lot of your decision making and knowing what to do next in terms of things. So, which of course is, part of the process of obviously learning the step-by-step inside home method. How did you, from a mindset point of view, really, I suppose, keep at it, keep maintaining that. There's one thing to say, oh no, we've got a deadline and we want to be out of this house as soon as possible. But it's also very easy and very understandable to let life get in the way. Like, how did you keep your mindset in the place where it was like, okay, no, we're going to dive back in. This is what we know we need to do next. We've seen this, we've watched this video, we've got this checklist. This is what we're going to do. Like, how did you, from a mindset point of view, keep that up and also balance that with the stress and just making big decisions?
Yeah, I guess the momentum, it was always on us to just keep it moving. Again, friends and family, very helpful. How's the house going? Good. So this is where we're at now. And my husband's family, bless his parents, they had never seen anything like this. I don't think they actually thought this thing would get built. I think they thought we were quite mad. This was completely outside their scope. So, yeah, I guess it was always on us to keep it moving. We did, but there were a lot of times where we were just waiting for somebody, so there were times where we didn't have to do anything. Paul consumed a lot of local project, a lot of grand designs. I think Aaron's told him to stop watching local project.
Yeah, they're not great. They're not great.
So yeah, I guess that was something Paul did for fun in the process. But it helps if you enjoy the process, definitely. And we have really enjoyed it. We enjoyed creating this. But yeah, there were times where we were waiting for the engineer. Poor guy fell down some stairs, broke his leg, was out of action for a long time. Times when we were waiting for Dwain to come back with the costing. And then when it did come back, it was a lot. And then there was a lot of time of them. And then, there's the January shutdown, of course, where no one does anything for pretty much all of January. Which actually we got the costing back by that stage and went, right, so time to take some money out of this. How are we going to eke out 50 to 100 grand? Oh dear. But that was good that we had that time, as it was almost like a pause in the project where we could really look at what do we value, where do we want to spend the money. Okay, there's louvers, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 banks of louvers. Let's get rid of them. Actually, let's go and visit Bradnam's. We rang up Bradnam's and walked through their showroom, and man, it was helpful. It was so helpful to go in and see the different kinds of windows. Hardest thing in that point where we're trying to get price points down, no one, not a single person talks dollars. They'll talk percentages.
Yeah.
They'll talk, this one's more expensive than this one. It just was, I was feeling our way in the dark so much, just trying.
So how did you do it? How did you do it in terms of being during that quiet period and figuring out how you were going to get 50 to 100K out of the design? What did you do? Because we talk about, obviously, as a homeowner, you can call these manufacturers and you can go and see these things, and it's great to be able to see them in person before you've obviously spent tens of thousands of dollars putting them in your house. And most of these manufacturers will have showrooms and things like that you can look through, but a lot of homeowners, it doesn't even occur to them to sort of go and suss these things out. So what did you do to target what you were going to save cash on?
We basically went to all the suppliers. I don't know how other builders work. I don't know if other builders give a checklist and go, right, go and choose. This is your rough budget. For us, that would have been helpful. But the downfall of that is it wasn't spec'd. So then we had to spend time going, no, delete that. No, delete that. No, delete that. And then, okay, louver windows, what can we swap them out for? Yeah, so swap them out for double hung. And actually, do we really need extra windows in this space at the back of the house? I've really got very little wall space and I like art. So yeah, let's maybe get rid of those ones altogether. There was, visiting all the suppliers, choosing all of our fixtures and fittings as we visited. I think the only thing that I haven't seen in person is my toilet, which is kind of weird because nobody had it in stock, but it got good reviews. And it's got a really good warranty. So that was the thing. what I did actually go out to Decina. Oh man, I sat in a bazillion baths, took so many photos. My poor camera reel is full of building products. Trying to find photos of the children. Someone's like, show me your photo of your family. Okay. Hang on a second.
Let me get through these 40 bath photographs first.
I'm just getting, I'll get there. I'll get the building, tiles, bench tops. Sorry. Here's, oh gosh, it's been about 3 months since I've taken a photo of the family. Lots of other photos. Yeah. So, and Decina the lady was really helpful there. She's like, make sure when you're looking for a toilet, get one that's got a 5-year warranty, and make sure it's got a warranty on all the plastic bits, the cistern and this other thing. And I can't remember now. I wrote it down at the time, but I don't need to know it anymore. So I've forgotten it. Yeah. So just talk to lots of people, really helpful. They give good advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I love that you've it's all of the stuff that, you know, we teach inside Home Method, is that just not being scared to ask all those questions and to have those conversations, and that this is information you can access and you can know and you can dig into, because so many homeowners just don't know that these are things that they can actually suss out for themselves. You mentioned, obviously, I wanted just to talk about any kind of hiccups that really presented themselves to you and how you sort of navigate it. You mentioned the windows and not being entirely sure of whether that is going to be a good outcome for you. And obviously you'll be able to see that in the finished home. I think that having space for wall hangings and those kinds of things is important too. So it'll be interesting to see once you're actually living in the home in that way. But is there anything else that did go a little bit pear-shaped or was a little bit unexpected? Or, you know, you mentioned right back at the beginning, obviously the sewer easement through the property and then that impacting the design. How did you navigate these hiccups? Because a lot of these hiccups can really derail people in their project experience. But obviously you've been able to get to where you're at now. So what's been your kind of experience with the hurdles and the hiccups along the way?
I guess, first of all, learn to accept no as an answer. But also don't. Like there is this really fine tension between no is definitely no. You know, you cannot cross this boundary line. This sewer line, this is it. Nothing goes over this. You don't even landscape this. You just will batter your backyard, and that's it. And I kept going, but where's my outdoor area? You can work that out down the track. But where's I don't have any outdoor. I don't have anything with a roof on it. I've got really, what exactly is going in the courtyard? It's like, it's a garden. Oh yeah, okay. Can I have a deck in there? Talk about it with your landscape designer. Okay. So in a sense, even though it is so weird though that this central major part of the design actually was completely unresolved until it's about 2 months ago or a month ago. But I guess you've got to be really okay with a lot of uncertainty and just dwelling in that I don't know. Patient to wait for the time for things. Not so patient that you're not proactive. There were times, some of the biggest hiccups and biggest problems came because we were just waiting for, well, hang on, when will we start talking about the kitchen? I know we've got a kitchen drawn there, but that's not the kitchen we're having, is it? Yeah, just negotiating assumptions, I guess. And
I remember you coming into the Home Method group actually with a kitchen sketch and saying, oh, actually, we want to redo this, you know, we're at this point,
that was this time
and
last year.
being able to rework that whilst we could. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt completely disloyal because like we had a kitchen design meeting in that horrible week when we were when we left here and then went back, designed a kitchen and then moved house. But we did all the cabinetry in 1 2-hour session. But the kitchen got left to last. So we went through, entryway cabinetry, bathroom cabinetry, ensuite cabinetry, my study, which, may I just say, in the revisions, no entryway cabinetry, no study cabinetry. We spent a long time on things that are not actually eventuating, and not very much time on the kitchen, which is, the really important bit. So if I could have done anything differently, I would have actually asked to have that sooner. I mean, I did actually, I wasn't completely passive. I do remember saying, hey, when are we going to talk about the kitchen? Oh, yes, we'll have the cabinetry we'll do that next time or whatever. But it just happened too late, and then it was too little. And look, on paper, the kitchen that was designed, it ticked the boxes. It did fit the brief. So then I started, fiddling and fixing. Where could I put that? How could I do that? Which I'm sad that I had to do, because, I didn't want to be that person who's, redesigning a professional's design, but it just didn't fit us. And at that point, we were not having any more design meetings. That's it. Design meetings were finished. So the next meeting was going to be all the changes, all of them, all wrapped up into one, summarized, ticked off. This is what we're building. And so we couldn't just go back, not unless we wanted to pay another $200 and something an hour to change that. So yeah, put it into that's the other lovely thing about the home method. And this is what Paul really likes. It's the community, it's the brains trust, it's the access to an architect all the time. A friend of mine said, well, when you're building and renovating, unless you actually have someone holding your hand the whole way through and telling you what's coming next, of course it's going to be a difficult and confusing thing. I laughed. That's what Undercover Architect is. It is someone holding your hand and telling you what's happening next. It is someone giving you advice about, well, this is a good way to go, but baby, try this. This is a good professional, this one's not. It's a hilarious thing. And your advice, actually going back, helped us to dodge a very, very dodgy professional. We spoke with one builder, great phone conversation. Then Paul went and did his due diligence, and we looked at QBCC. And this guy we spoke to, he wasn't even the builder. And then we spoke to him later. So actually, who's the builder? Oh, I am. Dude, you're a real estate agent. And then what about the guy with the license? No, he's just, this is sounding worse and worse. Hang on a second. And how long have you been in business? 17 years, 20 years. We've got stuff from the 1990s. And then you go looking, nothing. The house that was on socials, that's the very first house. So dodged a bullet there. Thank you for the advice. But anyway, yeah. So kitchen, gave it to the Brains Trust, workshopped it with, family, friends, you, and the advice you gave me. Well, you can see it is the kitchen. It is the one that we came up with in home method. That's what we ended up with. And then the other thing was the ensuite and bathroom. So the way that the shower and toilet, I wanted its own room for the toilet in the ensuite, because that's just marital harmony, just put a door on it, people. And then everybody's happy. So the way it had been designed, it was almost like, they were side by side alleyway sort of affair, 1,800 long, 900, 1,000 wide. And this is where our marriage got interesting. We learned to constructively disagree. We learned to allow each other to have an opinion that was not the same as our own. We learned to realize that was having a different opinion is not a personal attack. It's just a different opinion. But, that really took some very strong discussions to work through. Look, I won't say we fought, but we really discussed it. We walked away a few times. We'd come back to it. Paul has had so much trust in our designer, which is so valuable. But like you say, you can't have trust to the point where you end up with spaces that don't work, because you're the one that has to live in it, not them. And just because we disagree with the designer, it's not personal either. It's a professional decision. It's you're not going to live in this, I have to live in this. So I took Paul into our current toilet, which was the same dimensions as the shower. I'm like, how do you feel standing in here? It's like, fine. Well, I don't want to shower that's like this.
I'm gonna bash my elbows every time I wash my hair.
Yeah, we're gonna change this. So in the end, I think someone in the home method suggested, why don't you swap the spaces? I said, Or I think I just went ahead and swapped the spaces. And then after I did it, I asked for opinions. And then after I'd asked for opinions, then I showed Paul.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that conversation happening in there. Oh, Janet, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a cool conversation. I'm just super grateful for you taking the time and being willing to share in this way.
No, my
And it's
pleasure.